This is MacVoices TV. The Take Control ebook series are media sponsors of MacVoices TV. Visit them at takecontrolbooks.com.
All righty, I think we're ready to kick things off. How's everyone? Good morning.
There you go, they know.
So, it is that time. It is once again one of my favorite events. It is Macworld, and more importantly, the Adobe User Group Breakfast. This is, quite candidly, this is really the only reason I come out here. If it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't show up. Anyway. So as you know, Adobe's had a long history in supporting user groups, and we plan to continue to do so as best we can. Also, you may have noticed the change in venue, change in the way we're doing it this year, and also probably the lack of an Adobe booth that you might have noticed. And in these economic times, it may not come as too much of a surprise that we look for ways to cut back just like any other company. But we fought hard to keep the breakfast at least one more time. I don't know if it'll be the last time, but definitely this time to make sure that we could just have you guys out and show you some of the cool things that we're going to be doing. And with that, I'm not going to take any more of Dave's time because we are tight on time, and I know Dave's got a lot to show, and I've got a lot to show, so I'm going to turn it over to my manager of digital, audio, and video, Dave Helmly.
Thanks, Terry. Okay, yeah. We have a ton to show. So we've had a pretty exciting year in video at Adobe. So the products are just going skyrocketing. The clientele that we're now working with on video is huge. You saw the John Adams stuff, which to me is incredible. It's a great way to explain what the production premium box, what having an Adobe suite of software is all about. Inter-application communication, meaning apps just sending information back and forth in the background. So I'm going to show you guys some of that today, as well as some other cool technology we've been working on. Now I will point out, most of this workflow is not done on a laptop, right? It's typically done on a desktop. I can actually do an incredible amount on here. What really gets to be to slow things down is the lack of memory. So 4 gigs of RAM, and everything I'm dealing with here is high definition. So there isn't any DV like in the old days. So normal size SD video works great, but we're in an HD world now. So when you see some of the workflows that I'm working on, when it takes a little longer to launch, it's basically because I'm out of memory. So I'll probably sing and dance while that's going on. But I wanted to show you guys some really cool stuff that we've been working on. How many people have an HD camera now? Okay. How many people want an HD camera for about $600? Okay, because they're now out. Okay. So this Canon camera that I was just shooting some of you guys as you came in shoots on SD cards, and they're the same SD cards, nothing special. When I bought this 8 gig card probably 5 months ago, it was $19 in the Fry's bin at the front by the cash register. So 8 gig SD HD card, $19. So we all know the price is coming down. So this camera doesn't have any tape. It doesn't even have a hard drive, and I recommend if you're buying one, you don't even need the hard drive in the camera. The reason you want them on an SD card is that now allows you to take it and just put it inside of we paid, by the way, in bulk, we bought 10 of these, $1.99 for a USB 2 reader on Amazon. It was $5 for shipping, but that's okay. So, but we got all of them shipped at the same time, so that was good. They didn't get it. So you could just put this in a standard deal. So what I'm getting at is these video cameras, you just treat them with Adobe products exactly the same way you would treat any still camera. That's now where we are in 2008 and 2009. So you'll start your project out just by going to new project. I'm going to just sort of stick this on the desktop. pretty simple to use. Now what I'm getting at here is you don't have to, flip any of the files around with, and I'm not, ragging on Final Cut or Avid or those. Those are great products. But in order to use content like this, and even in iMovie, you have to bring it in and convert it and wait. It's just an extra step, and it takes more hard drive space. So we're trying to do everything native at Adobe, which means take it out of the camera, do not change anything on the card. And oh, by the way, if you want to use this as a hard drive and edit off of the card, you can do that too. So I don't even have to copy anything to the computer. I'm going to edit directly off of this card. So it's called AVC HD. That's the format that you'll look for when you're in Best Buy or whatever. And if you want the model number, this is an HF100. They're down to about $700 now, and it is full 1920 1080. And I'm going to choose 1920 1080. And down at the bottom, I'm going to just give this the timeline or sequence the name of 1920 1080. And all I'm going to do, I'll give you a second I'm going to show you where that pops up. It's just I'm going to stick this USB card in there. Now again, this is a longer demo that we'll be doing throughout the day today, where I'll slow it down a bit, but just to keep things rolling. We have a new media browser. So this now allows me to go out on my hard drive and look around. It sounds like a little thing, but we're one of the only video editing apps that actually allow you within a panel to poke around your hard drive and test files out before you import them in the project. For those of you guys that have used iMovie and other programs, you got to bring it in, and you got to wait. If it has to convert, it's like, oh my gosh, that's the wrong file, delete it, go find another one. It's a little bit of a pain. So this is going to allow me to pop this in here, and you'll notice it'll just come up with the name of the card. It says Canon. I can double click on the files here. I'm going to grab the last one. That should have been you guys. And all I have to do is double click, and it's going to open you guys right up in the source window. And there you guys are in line. And I can go in and hit play.
No chicken, no laundry.
And that's playing directly live right off of the card. I'm not doing anything, I'm just playing. So I can go ahead and bring that into the project and immediately start to edit it directly off of the card. So that's a huge benefit. Now, by the way, it's not even part of my project yet. So I can come in here and say I want my in point here and I want my out point here, and then oh, there she is. And then I can let's just make her the whole video. That's what it's all about right there. So I'll set her as my in, and then right here is my out. I might save that and put that on my MySpace page. So I can then grab CZ and then just throw it down to the timeline, and it's only going to grab that much information. So it's a much more intuitive way to edit. And by the way, I thought the new iMovie yesterday, as a 17-year user of Premiere, looked really neat. Making the interface nice and easy to use is one thing, but the biggest pain in the neck is getting the media into the computer. We all know that. I mean, if you're used to it like I am, it's second nature, but for people that are just hitting on this every now and then, it's a big deal. So that's a little bit on AVC HD editing. Now, you can also copy files to your hard drive. So, for example, if you happen to have a bunch of files, I have a folder that I call tapeless formats, which I'll show you some pretty cool stuff that we've been working on. Here's an AVC HD card. AVC HD does not support thumbnails, but we're actually working on that, where we'll go out there and build them for you. So I can just go in and double-click on any of these files as well. And here's some guys on jet skis. I can set an in, set an out if I want, drag it down to my timeline, and I'm ready to go. I can go right in there and ready to edit. Now I will point out, because we're Adobe and we're always honest and straightforward with you. If this is a little program called Gauge in the Apple Developer Kit. So what this does is to show me Core 1, Core 2. If I had an 8 core, it would show me 8 speedometers. Watch what happens when you play back a native AVC HD file. It is very difficult on this laptop to have fluid, beautiful, sort of lean back on the couch, watch the video. Okay, now, by the way, it actually plays back better and faster off of the SD card, because it's faster than the hard drive. Makes sense, right? Again, you got to have high-speed SD cards, have really good fast ones. And even that one for $19 works great. But just keep in mind, an 8-core will just play that beautifully smooth, but we're all not lugging around an 8-core to Macworld. So just to point that out. So native editing is both a blessing and a curse. You know, if you want to convert the file, you can, but a lot of us, we sort of know the footage, and you know, once it settles down, it will just come back and play, and you can bring it up, you know, you can bring it up full screen. None of that makes any difference in the Adobe app. It's really just what it takes to decode it. Now, this is going to be something exciting that I'm looking for with Snow Leopard, because Snow Leopard is going to give us GPU capabilities. And all of this issue of decompressing will go out to the NVIDIA graphics card, for example. So a lot of these problems will be solved in the near term. But just to sort of bring that up front. But you'll totally enjoy native editing. So other things that you can do, we just delete some of this. And Xgage is written like 3 years ago, so it really, Apple has decided not to update it, unfortunately. It's a great little tool to show off what's going on with your system there. Okay, so let me grab a couple other files and show you where this really starts to get fun. So I've got some other tapeless formats. This is called Sony XD Cam. And I'm going to grab, let's see, clip 18, which is this little bird that, I live in downtown Annapolis, so this is a little bird that was sitting on the city dock. So he just plays, and XD Cam doesn't take anything to decompress. I mean, it's kind of funny that the consumer app camera takes much more to compress than this broadcast camera, with just, and quality on each one's, you know, nearly the same. So what I might want to do is to use this bird in my project. Now again, what am I doing here? I'm poking around on my hard drive. The bird is not part of my project yet. All I did was double click on it and play it and decide, yep, that's the one I want. I want the scene of this car. Make sure that this is the right scene. Yep, there's my car. So I'll just set that as an endpoint, scrub down just to where the pan goes up to the camera, out, and then drag it down to the timeline. Bring that up full screen and play. Yep, that looks perfect. I'll take that. Now, what I want to do is to take this bird and make him part of my project. I think I want to have him down in my lower third. So what I can do is I can find a frame where I like the bird, because I want to animate the bird. That's a nice little piece of video, but I need the bird sort of pecking at the ground. I need to make him peck at the ground or move his head around the way I want to animate him, right? So this is, again, what part of our suite's about. So I'm going to go over here and go to export. Now, I'm not going to do that because that's going to launch my export program. I just want to show you what it did. What it did is it went in and just made me a still. Here's a target file. All I did was just grab one snapshot, made me a still. I then took this file, and let me open that with Photoshop, because I want to show you. Here's the program that always likes to come up. That was actually my fault. Open with Photoshop. So, and I'm going to show you a couple quick things in Photoshop as well. Some really fun things. But this sort of gets a lot of attention to sort of show what you can do with your own media in the Adobe Suite. So the file will come up, and all I did was basically took this very difficult to use, you know, magic wand or tragic wand as we used to call it, but the new selector, and just come in here and just very quickly with the Magic Select tool, just select the bird. You guys have all seen how this works. It's amazing. You just sort of do it and clean up the bird. And then all I did was to go in here and, you know, inverse the selection, delete the background, and now I just have the bird, right? So let me get out of that because I've already got him done. I'm going to minimize that. So now I have my bird, and he's right here. All I did was cut him out. So I'm gonna bring the bird into Premiere Pro, and just go down and find my little PSD. And the only reason I saved it as a PSD is I needed to have the background punched out. So here he is. So now I can just take my little bird, throw him on the timeline. I'm going to shorten him up a little bit. And here he is. He's actually a little big. So I'm going to shrink the bird down. Yeah, he could just totally splatter that car. Okay, so yeah, when you live in our town, you completely learn to love the seagulls. So anyway, there he is. Now, he's not animated. How do I animate him? Well, now what we can do to make life even easier, and one of the things, and I'm going to send it over to After Effects, one of the things that gets to be difficult about using some of the Adobe suites is leaving one application and going to the next application when it's an application that you don't use a lot. If you know how to do one or two things in the app, that's what I do, but it's sort of prepping the file to get it over there. So what we've done with this technology that I did show you guys a little last year, for those of you that were here, it's called Dynamic Link. So Dynamic Link is basically a communications tool that we use that communicates in the background and is now talking to After Effects in the background, and it's basically sending the bird, and it could be any video, any file over to After Effects, and it's going to allow me to animate the bird very easily and very quickly. So we'll give After Effects a chance to come up. So here's After Effects. I'll just say OK. And now, by the way, I know a lot of you guys don't use After Effects, and it's like, I wish I had the time to deal with After Effects, but very easy to do with what I'm going to show you. All you have to do is grab this new pen tool, click the pen tool. You're going to click on, I'll just click on his head, I'm going to click on his foot, maybe I'll click on his body. I'm going to hold down my command key here. I'm going to just stretch out my timeline here. I'm going to hold down my command key, grab this, and just make him sort of poke his head around like this. And now I have the bird animated doing whatever I want to do. Now, if I needed the bird so he's not moving so much of his back, I'm going to put another pen down there, and now I can just sort of just get him so I can spend all day making him look as realistic as I want, turning the head a little bit, not a lot of movement, but to tell you the truth, when you're tricking people out this way, and a lot of things in Hollywood and TV are done this way. There are still files like that John Adams thing, and we just move little pixels around. So now all I have to do is go back to Premiere, and that bird is now animated as he starts to get in and move around. And I can spend all the, this is normally a longer demo where I can do some other things with him. I just wanted to show you how some of that works. What do you guys think? Pretty cool? I mean, it seems easy, doesn't it? So let me close this project down. And I'll show you another one that's cool. One of the things that is big in Hollywood, I doubt anybody here would be running out to buy one of these things, but just to kind of show you where some of these products are going, there's a new camera called the Red camera. It's like the hottest thing going on right now in Hollywood. It's igniting the industry right now. We are the only editor worldwide that can edit these files native exactly the same way as I showed you editing with this camera. Everybody else has to flip them, and the workflow is a little cumbersome. So I have a project that we've worked on. Close this down. And we're just getting calls from all sorts of people. We're actually working with a group that did the Paris Hilton video. I don't know why, that Paris Hilton for President thing. I actually have the raw footage for that. I was going to show you, but I can't take too much. I've shown it last week, and it's just, I don't know, it's different. So here's a rock band called Saving Abel, which has the top 10 song out right now. And the way that this works is, again, I'm just going to go into my demo folder, and I will tell you, you guys will love this. An 8 gig card would do nothing for these files because my files are 60 gig on my hard drive, and they're less than 4 minutes. So just, it's the front. And the reason that is, if I go into my red footage and I look at this file that's right here, this is what they call an R3D file. That's a native raw file. And again, I share this with you just to show you this is the future of where all of this editing stuff is going, whether you're on now a $700 camera, and this, by the way, was $1,100 when I got some of these last year, so they're already coming down in price, all the way up to this camera, which competes against probably a $500,000 setup. This camera's only $18,000. Then you start putting lenses on it, you get up to about $50,000. So for Hollywood, that's disposable for some of these multi-million-dollar movies. So what happens is I can double-click on any of these files and just play them. Now that's, and I could come up here and play it full screen. And just so you know, that's a 4K file. So if I go down to Properties, for example, highlight this like this, and again, just showing you technology where it's changing, that's a 4,000. That's twice the resolution that we're looking at on our normal high-def TVs we might have just gotten for Christmas. So, and again, these are a lot of the hottest movies are being filmed. And what it allows me to do is to take these native raw files and put them on the timeline. And I can mix 4K, and this is a 2K shot of the girl coming out of the swimming pool, a little slow motion shot, and I could just edit these. And when we share this workflow with Hollywood, they go bananas because they can edit right from the card, right on site, and just figure out, did I get the shot, does it look good, and so forth. And it really is propelling Premiere Pro way up at the top. And Premiere Pro now becomes the central hub for a lot of these workflows. So with that, there's one person on my staff, Mike Camphor down in Hollywood, who actually has an Oscar for Titanic. So and he did Lord of the Rings, and he did some stuff with Harry Potter, and has a very long laundry list of credits that he's an amazing guy. So we're hiring guys in the industry, bringing them on our teams that know these workflows. One of the things that Mike bought us for this demo file, which Mike's been with us for a couple years now, is he bought us one of these producers, and he was one of the guys that did the movie The Departed. So the demos that you'll see that Terry and I are with the whole CS4 theme is this it's double identity detective footage, and here's a little bit of what our demo files have completely changed now by the clientele, and they really enjoy working with us. I'll give you a taste of what they've worked on. And this is high def, playing in real time on my laptop.
Safe. Get in. But she had other plans.
Don't get any funny ideas, Lancelot. I can take care of myself.
But when a secret from her past leads to murder at the top,
I'll call you back.
Who's Guinevere?
promises turn to threats.
Better be. I'll be there in an hour.
And truth disappears into shadow. No one can be trusted.
You forget. I'm the man.
Nothing is what it seems.
Roll it real loud so to drown out the sound of this bullet going through your skull. Now sit down.
And roles become reversed. Lines are crossed and double-crossed. Passions flare. And everyone has something to hide.
It's even better when you help.
From the writers of Valley of the Shadow, Double Identity.
So, completely different demo than you've ever seen coming from an Adobe timeline at an event, certainly like Macworld. But these are the types of people that are starting to discover how easy these tools are working. And the whole Adobe idea of the suites and everything you guys have been hearing is finally sort of registering with a lot of these customers. So what would we do with this sort of file when we go into these guys' offices and we show them some of this footage, some of this workflow? Here's the kind of questions they ask. Well, you'll notice all throughout the video, there was these little green screen shots that were up here. They have to deal with these things all the time. Now, again, this is what we call Panasonic P2 footage. And again, I have to laugh. This is what's called a P2 card, this big, huge card. On the Mac, you got to use this adapter, but you basically, plug this thing in here and stick it in here, and I can edit directly off the card. When we show directors and producers and cameramen, give me that P2 card out of that camera, and I throw it in there, and I show them what I'm about to show you here, they go absolutely bananas. So what I'm going to do is take this one clip and do what I just showed you a second ago, and I'm going to just send it over to After Effects. Now, After Effects is already open, so it's instantaneous. This, again, is why you want lots of RAM. The biggest problem we have with Adobe, and the reason I'm so excited about the new 17 that I'm getting Terry to order me as soon as he can, 8 gigs of RAM, right? And everything we do now, including on the Windows side, because we highly recommend Vista 64 for Windows users, because that's the only way a Windows user can get 8 gigs of RAM. Like Mac users, or buy a Mac, and we all know that it's always been great with RAM. So everything we do is 64-bit now. From a memory standpoint. So all I'm going to do is just go in, and people in After Effects know this tool, Keylight, and if you guys have played around with After Effects, you basically just drag and drop Keylight, pick a Photoshop color picker, and you're done. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and import a file, this file of the alley, and I'm going to drag and drop the alley. If you don't know a lot about After Effects because you're new, basically this is the Photoshop layers panel down here. That's all it is. Just think of it like Photoshop. Now watch what happens when I go back to Premiere. It updates instantly. No rendering, no nothing, and we'll have guys just basically fall out of their chairs. They're like, now wait a minute. I normally have to render that out, go back over here and import it. Now, what you'll notice up here, which happens a lot in workflows, is you know, we have these lines going through. That's because that's the scene of the alley, and that's a pretty typical thing. You've rendered it, it's wrong, it was a test render. Well, we don't have to worry with that now. We can just go back over to After Effects. Let me just click on that footage there, and I'll just bring down the white level. I know that because I did the demo. So you basically can see that it's fixed, and when I go back over to Premiere, it's updated automatically. And then the guy says, that's great, I got to get that to print for a daily. I need that on a Blu-ray now. And then you're like, okay, well, you need it's 38 hours per 2 hours of video to export. That's the truth. 38 hours for 2 hours to export Blu-ray. And that's all cores just pumping and just doing their thing. We do have some other answers with hardware, but I'm basically going to say, you know what? Let's send this timeline over to Encore, which is the only Blu-ray authoring program on the Mac. Proud to say, so I've been involved with Encore since its early days. So this now is going to read my timeline, read the assets that I've used, and live send it over via dynamic link to Encore. No rendering, no nothing. So you can see a lot of these little snippets. You don't have to know anything about After Effects except for the 2 or 3 things. Okay, show me how to make the little bird do his thing, show me how to do the green screen, I'm good. And then you can start to discover. We just want to get people touching the parts of the apps that they use. So Encore, I didn't have to launch it separately. I didn't have to know how to set up the project. All I wanted to do was just click on it and send it over there. So again, a large part of what's going on here is just the hard drive. So I pick either Blu-ray or DVD. It knows the frame rate and all that. So now it's sending that information. It's transferring it over. It's not copying anything. It's just analyzing everything on the timeline and sending it over there. But it gets really slick at this point. It's going to automatically do the timeline and create the timeline for me. And if I go back over here, and I can play this timeline, you can see it just scrubs. Now, what is this doing? It's actually, the reason it's pink is it's communicating with Premiere Pro in the back. When I'm scrubbing this here, Premiere is actually doing all the work, not Encore. This is a pass-through. So Premiere now is a headless engine. That's the way a lot of our technology is working. So here's my little scene. They're in the car. And the director comes and says, you know what? Right there, it needs to be snowing. Okay, all right. So I go back over to After Effects, and I type in CC snow, I throw some snow, and I go over back to Premiere, and oh, it's snow, great. And I go back over to Encore, I've rendered it out, and I look at it, and the guy goes, why is it snowing in the car, right? So I'm like, so I gotta go back over here to After Effects, and I gotta undo that, and I gotta drag the snow to the right layer. But you can see some of these nightmares that happen in these kind of workflows. So as I come in here and get some of this, I gotta get this lot more snow and maybe make my flake size a little bit larger, like so. And then when I go back over to Premiere, I should see the snow go away there. It should sort of appear behind her. I guess I could probably use some more snow there. Oh, I'm in Encore there, sorry. I'll go back over to Premiere. After Effects there. There you go. A little bit. Let's make those snowflakes really big so you can see them. Has to do with the size of the file in the back. And then go back over here to Premiere. I should see some flakes over here. And then when I go back over to Encore, it'll update the flakes in the background. So it's actually talking, and there's more flakes. So that's a little bit of the workflow that's just going crazy. Now wait, it gets even better than that. So let me minimize Encore. And what I want to do is show you one of the coolest things that has come out in a long time, and it gets a lot of attention. And that is, do we have any librarians here? Former ones? You guys know about Dublin Core and all that really great stuff? So the Dublin Core and the metadata is all built into these new Adobe apps. So let me explain what that's about. I'm going to, see if I quit out of After Effects, I'll try to save some memory. And I'll bring that down. And let's go over, I'll just eject, let's leave that alone. Let me go over to my hard drive here. And I have to delete a file, which I forgot to delete yesterday, and I'll explain that in a minute. Because once I do what I'm going to show you, it actually writes it to the file every time. So let's come up here and grab that for you. to delete this, and I have to unzip another one. Okay, so what did I do here? This file is basically a PDF. I know that's hard to read, but it's a PDF that I just copied off the website. So since landing on Mars on Sunday, Phoenix is delighted scientists with the first ever peak, blah, blah, blah. So I did this live when I was in New York at a seminar, and it worked when this was in beta, and it worked really well. So I basically took my iSight camera here with a snowflake mic, one of these little mics that you see, and I just recorded myself reading that live right off the internet. So what can I do with that once I do that? Premiere a chance to, I know, Premiere is looking for After Effects, so give it a chance to figure out that After Effects isn't there anymore. So while Premiere is trying to figure that out, let me go back over here. Yeah, see this little green line right here? Premiere is like, oh, you've taken some of that away from me. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me open up a file here, and I'll import that in. So let's back over here. Guarantee you this one will probably be the one you remember out of everything you've seen today, because this blows people away. Okay, so here's lovely me with a head mic on in this particular example. I do remember, I actually had a head mic, not the snowflake, for this one.
Since landing on Mars on Sunday, Phoenix has delighted scientists with the first ever peak of the planet's unexplored.
Notice I sort of stumbled there when I was just reading it quickly, right? Very important.
Northern latitudes. Phoenix is on a 3-month mission to excavate the soil using its 8-foot-long robotic arm to reach the ice.
Okay, now what do I do with all that? Well, with metadata, we now have the ability built into all of the Adobe applications. I'm going to just bring this up full screen. We have tons of things that we now track. Here's all the Encore information, rights management, all of this stuff. Now, most of this came out, if you're familiar with the BBC, they've now switched to Adobe Premiere and the Adobe Suite for for a lot of their stations. They do a lot of things on metadata. And you'll see where this goes in a second. I'm going to just basically tell Premiere Pro that if I have this file here, let's click on it, I want it to transcribe what I'm saying into text and inject that text into the movie so I can search and edit by what I'm saying. This is blowing the industry away. Apple has nothing like this. Avid has nothing like this. So we go like this. You pick a language, okay, and we are working on lots more languages. So there's, Japanese, Korean, also. And of course, we have lots of different English. I think we should just have a map of the United States, and you sort of pick the region you're trying to decipher. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just say do it. We have 2 applications that will do this. Premiere Pro and Soundbooth. The difference between the 2 is Soundbooth will do it instantly and just start crunching it, but it only does 1 file at a time. Premiere Pro can batch them and throw them in the background. So if you have a whole bunch of movies that you need to do, and what I'm going to show you in a second is I have a 90-minute video, we don't have to watch the whole thing, of the Obama debate, the last one they did. And what would we do with metadata there? We'll wait and see. So what's happening in the background is Adobe Media Encoder is launching in the background. It pops up. Now, then this is really just our batch program. And basically, I just say, why don't you just work on that information for me in the background? I'm going to go back over here and continue editing. All that happens in the background. And it's pretty close to real time, by the way. It takes, that's about a 40-second file, and it takes it about 49 seconds to do it. And once the file is done, the transcript information will just show up right there, and it's live, it's done, and there's my text. Now, this is pretty cool. Check this out.
Landing on Mars on Sunday, Phoenix has delighted scientists with the first ever peak of the planet's unexplored northern latitudes. Phoenix is on a 3-month mission to excavate the soil using its 8-foot-long robotic arm
we use it all the time. Now, by the way, it's not meant, and it's not 100% accurate, obviously. So you can just double, like this dual, I didn't say the word dual, but I can just double click on it and fix it. And one of the things I love to show is if I hit copy all, and you're lucky enough to be on a Mac, you can obviously go to translator and translate it. The PC guys freak out when they see, like, you can turn it into Russian? Are you kidding me? Now, of course, it's a translator, so you got to have somebody that actually speaks Russian to make sure you didn't insult somebody. But, so, you know, but you can sort of see where the technology is going with this. So very easy to do this. Google looked at this, and I think we got their attention. So let me show you why. Because if I have a video that I've done, I brought it in the Soundbooth, and we're going to have this up on Adobe Labs, the method that it takes to do what I'm about ready to show you. Is I'm going to go into a little piece of video that and all we did, by the way, was pull this video down from NBC. I think we got permission to pull it down from NBC. And I can play this. This is sort of loud, so I'm going to turn some of this down. And it's just the presidential debate.
At the University of Mississippi
audio is
in
not
Oxford.
particularly even that
I'm
great.
Jim Lehrer of the News
So
Hour
now,
on PBS.
What I want to do is I want to know, John McCain tends to say friends a lot. So tell me how many and where he said friends. Oh, he said friends here, here, and here. How many times did they say the word Iraq? Now, think about how we're going to use this information. So if you're on Google and you're doing a search for Iraq or a string that somebody said, you're going to be able to go right to the video, right to where they said it. So let's just type in the word Iraq. Look at all the times, they really concentrated. It's a big concentration of Iraq here, and we finished. See how you're getting a visual view of what's happening in the video. So we're just going crazy with this technology. So these are, and by the way, you can just click on any one, and it'll just start right there, and he'll just start talking about Iraq or whatever he said.
2 minutes for how you see the lessons of Iraq, Senator Obama.
Well, this is an area where
I mean, it's amazing where this technology is going to go. So you guys will just see that, and that's definitely an Adobe first, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. What do you think? Pretty cool? Okay, I'll wrap up with something I think that's I've been waiting for a long time, and Terry, you can get ready to come on up, bud. Oh, you know, I do have one other thing. I'll show them that Photoshop thing, so hold on for a sec, sorry. So how many people here use Final Cut? Great application. Obviously, it was written not too far from here. At Macromedia, right? You guys know the history of Final Cut. So, so we know a lot about the app, and we have about an 80% attach rate to Final Cut and Avid systems with our Production Premium box. So Adobe always taking the middle road. We think there's so many things you can do with this, but there's a lot of people that like to edit with Avid or Final Cut or even other systems. How do we make Adobe part of that workflow? We know they'll discover how great our apps are once they use them, and it's up to them. They're going to use the tools, right tool for the right job. But what if I needed to get a lot of the things that I've shown you from those Final Cut projects? Well, we're happy to announce that a couple of weeks ago, we had an update to Premiere Pro, which also allows me to take it into After Effects. And here's a Final Cut project. Let's see, that is somewhere on my drive here. CS4 demos. Hold on here. FCP right here. So here's my Final Cut project. I just click on the Final Cut project file and import it in. It's pretty fast. It reads it in. And by the way, you'll love this. It works on Windows, too. So Windows users. Now, you may ask, who on earth would want to use a Final Cut project on Windows? I work very closely with the video gaming, as you saw with the EA stuff. I'm actually working on a project with them right now with that goofy stuff you saw in the beginning. They use, 90% of what they use is Windows for 3D. A lot of Mac in the editing and Mac in the creative. But how do we get those files over to Windows? It's not like a word processing file, as you guys know. Well, they've totally freaked when we showed them this because it allows those editors to continue using the tools that they want to use. We're all about, you know, to me, I'm just like, buy my purple box and I don't care what you do with it. No, I'm just kidding. You know, buy the right tool for the right job. So here's the Final Cut project. You know, I can double click on a Final Cut title. You know, I can say, oh, well, you know, that text needs to be bigger, and just sort of pull it out. And there you go, our new FCP importer. And there's my title. Here's a picture-in-picture, which has all been turned into the Adobe Motion controls. So if I click on this, here's all the After Effects keyframing, already done for you, because those are the keyframes. That's this little file. I can actually make it easier since it might be hard to read. Now I can start to do the Adobe magic on it and throw a bevel or something goofy on it over here. But that's all part of the magic. So what do you guys think? Pretty cool? So Final Cut imports. Okay, lastly, I'm going to show you this one cool thing in Photoshop, and I'll give Terry a chance to get himself ready. Are you going to do any of the content-aware stuff? Yeah. Okay, so I'll leave that alone. So we have a file that is really pretty slick. If you guys can check this one out here. How many people out there have a camera that's 13, 14 megapixels? Okay, how many people have a camera higher than that? All right, let me show you, if I can find my file. I'm just going to use Spotlight. Let's see here. Here it is. How about a camera that's 442 megapixel equivalent image? Now, what's really cool, this file size, there's a website that actually shows you how all this was done. It's a picture of the Adobe towers. And it's going to make you a little nervous about where this technology is going and who'll be watching you. But so it's actually shot on a piece of film, and it was actually had to be downsampled to 442 megapixels. It's a pretty interesting story. So here's the Adobe towers. What could you do with an image like this? Well, I could go in down here, and I think the airport exit's about right there. There's the airport exit. And now with CS4, look, I'm just panning right along. I can double-click on the hand tool, and I can see as Johnny L. did in his demo, who's coming in till late to work one day. Law enforcement love this because they can go in. Look at the clarity of information you can't even see and say, yep, that's the bus that we thought the boy was on because this is what they look for. There's his bike. I taught a forensics class at Adobe this summer, and we were showing them some of this, and they were like, this is amazing. So this technology is not mounted on lamppost quite yet, but you can certainly see where Adobe's bringing some of this technology. And I will say we have a lot of fun just peeking into people's offices to see who's around, what's going on. So we thought we'd share that with you as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Terry. Thanks, guys.
The Take Control ebook series are media sponsors of MacVoices TV. Visit them at takecontrolbooks.com. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices Group and a member of Mac Level 10.